So this is Kathy. She followed her dreams about 3 years ago and opened a little restaurant called The Daily Grind. It's a cozy little thing that her community loves. She's doing really well for herself too. She's got a couple part-time employees. She's got a menu that the regulars love, but there's a problem with her numbers. You see, despite Kathy getting decent reviews and consistent customers, she's really struggling to get consistent profits. And she's only using a basic point of service system, which doesn't offer her any analytics. So let's zoom into the story of Kathy. Every now and then, those numbers just trouble her. She gets a call from her business mentor, Janet, every now and then, and they just vent. Oh, my Saturdays are great. My Sundays are even better. But my Mondays are just absolutely depressing, and I have no idea why. So, even though Mondays might be the biggest source of stress and frustration for Kathy, it's entirely possible that this might be her greatest opportunity yet. So to start off, we're going to be taking a look at the numbers that Kathy is actually getting from her point of sale system. We're going to be using Querri, of course, for data analysis, and we're going to be assuming that the numbers are in some sort of organized format. In this case, it's going to be a CSV file called Daily Sales Summary. We're going to go over, we're going to select that file, and we're going to say Add Data. Now that the data is fully loaded in, we can go ahead and click on this little zoom button to take a look at the source file that we've just uploaded to Querri. And we'll get a row by row breakdown of all of the POS numbers that Kathy has gotten over the last 6 months. And now we can see, her weekends are looking pretty good. Fridays are great. Saturdays are even better. Sundays a little bit lower, but Mondays just always look slow for her, right? But it gets even worse because if we look at more recent numbers, Mondays are 115. That's half the sales, less than half the sales on Sunday, right? And this is a pattern that does not look very good for her. So right off the bat, we can go ahead and ask Query to do some pretty basic data visualizations. For example, let's just go ahead and visualize the average sales by day of the week. Let's go ahead and see what that does. All right, so Query is done generating, and yeah, it does pretty much reaffirm that Mondays are pretty slow for Kathy. But let's go down another line of thought here, right? Let's go ahead and see if we can visualize the average transaction size this time, throw in a bar chart and see what we can see. So Query's gone ahead and wrapped that up, and we can see, very interestingly, that even though Mondays are slow for Kathy, technically Monday customers don't spend any less than any other day's customers, right? So one last thing before we move on to the next part of our theory crafting is let's ask ourselves, right, how much customers does she get on Monday, right? Maybe there's something else we're missing here. Let's throw in a bar chart as well and see what we can see. So finally, we arrive at the average number of transactions by day of the week, and it looks pretty low, right? So there are a low number of customers and there are a low number of transactions on Mondays, but they spend just as much as any other customer. So that should get you thinking, what is Kathy doing special on Mondays? Let's go ahead and look into that next. All right, so now we should be asking ourselves just how down are Kathy's Mondays, right? They spend just as much as any other day's customers, but there are less of them, right? Is she doing something special on that day compared to other days? So our next question should be something along the lines of, what's the average sales time on Mondays compared to other days? That's absolutely important when it comes to restaurant business, and it's definitely important for us now. Let's see what Query says. So this is really cool to see. When we take the average sales time on Mondays and compare it to other days, it turns out that Monday customers actually prefer to come in earlier than other days of the week. They come in at around 11:30 compared to around 12:40 or even 1 p.m. like on Fridays. Kathy should be able to take advantage of this somehow. That's a big opportunity for her. But to dig into this a little bit more, if we come down here, I actually have a line graph that goes hour by hour and day by day that shows exactly why Saturdays and Fridays are so lucrative for her. There's an early morning to lunchtime rush that she gets on those days that she doesn't quite get on Mondays. And that is the crux of it, because it turns out that Kathy has just realized something about her Mondays. So, what Kathy hasn't mentioned yet is that in an effort to save costs, in early October, she made the decision to open the restaurant just a little bit later than she would on Monday mornings, simply because she thought there was less customers coming in, it'd be less worth it to stay open. But she may have created her own issue here, because as we can see on Fridays and Saturdays, there's a big early morning rush that she's completely locking herself out of simply because she's opening the restaurant a little bit later than she normally would. But that begs the question now, just how much money is Kathy losing because she decided to open the restaurant later? So coming back to this, we're going to ask Query to compare the opportunity costs each Monday if these post-October operations continue to see if we're saving or losing any amount of money. So if we compare the amount of Monday sales pre-October and post-October, We can see that Kathy can expect to lose about $6,000 every single year if these post-October operations continue. That is a large sum of money for a decision that she thought at first would be harmless. So from Kathy's story, we can go ahead and grab a few key takeaways that any small business owner can use. Number one, listen to your data. Before you make significant changes to your business, make sure that it matches what the data says your customer wants and not what you think the customer wants. Number two, make sure you're looking at the right metrics. You see, Kathy rushed to judge Monday customers as spending less, when in reality, they bought just as much as any other day's customers. Because she was looking at Monday's totals and not the average transaction size, she lost out on seeing Mondays as an opportunity and instead saw it as a lost cause. Number three, make sure you're using a data analysis tool that lets you see all of these trends and patterns in context, like Querri. So go ahead and take that quiz to get to the next section, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.